Okay guys, so here is Project Tonka. Now let me first off by saying that this whole truck doesn't really have that much to do with me. This is my dad's truck and my dad's money, so he's doing what he wants to do with this. Now, the original plan was, of course, to use leaf springs and shocks for the suspension. But I saw a video, I forget the guy's YouTube channel, but he has a Tonka dump truck, and he didn't use any suspension, he just mounted the axles right to the frame. And I told my dad about that, and then he got the idea to do that with this truck just because it's going to allow him to get the truck done quicker and get it out and up and running. And this project has been going on for almost a year now, so he just wants to get this thing done, and then after it gets up and running, we might then go ahead and modify it more and add suspension to it, because once again, this truck isn't meant to be a performing truck. It's just the idea of he wanted to build a truck around this body, and so that's what he's doing with it. But he has, and I've helped him a little bit, but it's mostly been him. He's made some progress on this truck. So he got the axles mounted to the chassis. He made sure they were straight and everything, measured it out to make sure everything lined up straight. He made his own custom steering linkage with, I don't know what kind of rod that is, but it's just like hollow, maybe like 3/16 rod, and he just took his measurements, trial and error to make sure the right lengths, and he finally got it to where it worked, and then we had our steering linkage. He mounted the servo up in the chassis, which I will show you in a second, but I want to side note, the one problem, well, not really one problem, but a problem that we have encountered with this, and you can probably see from there, is that these axles are too long for this body. The width of this body is very small. It's not very wide, and so to find axles that are going to fit underneath the wheel wells is going to be pretty hard. So it's not going to exactly look scale from the front, but from the side it will look pretty scale. I can kind of show you what it'll look like, but we do have wood blocks that we put on underneath here, and I just don't really know where he put those, but it's gonna kind of look like that, and it lines up well from like the wheelbase, but the width of it is just off a little bit. So let me take this off now. So like I said, he got the axles all mounted, he got his servo mounted up in the chassis. He cut a hole in the chassis, and then he mounted in his transfer case, and then there's going to be room for the gear reduction unit in there. He has to wait for, he ordered a RC 4-wheel drive 35 turn motor, because the way that the pinion gear goes in here, a lot of the motors that we have, they have like a, I don't know what you would call it, but there's this lip on it. I don't know if you can see it, like this lip right here, and they won't fit inside this hole right here. They're always too big. So he's hoping that the RC 4-wheel drive motor will fit with the RC 4-wheel drive part. So that's kind of where we're stuck at with now, because then he has to figure out where he's going to exactly mount this, because the motor and the transmission or gear reduction unit has to fit underneath the hood. So he has to figure out the length, or where he's going to put it on the chassis. And I came home today, he's like, hey, I think I have the drive shafts figured out. So he went to our local hobby store, Larry's, and he bought, I don't even know what they're for, but they're Traxxas drive shafts. There's the part number if you're interested at all. But I can't imagine them being for anything big. They're really small drive shafts. So they have to be from maybe one of their 1/16, like the E-Revo or something. Well, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, he had to like drill them out, and he didn't have to do a lot to make them work, but he might end up still having to cut them down. And he's gonna have to clock the axles just to make sure the drive shafts aren't at too much of an angle, because as you can see right now, it's at a pretty big angle, if you can see in there. So But yeah, it's some decent progress on this thing so far. So all we have to do is get the other drive shafts in, have to mount up the gear reduction unit, get some electronics in there, and it should be pretty much ready to go. But who knows how long that's going to take. We could encounter more problems as we go. But that's kind of where we've gotten so far, or I should say my dad's gotten so far. And that's an update on the Project Tonka. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I would have really liked to see him go with the leaf spring and the actual suspension setup, but it's his truck. He's going to do what he wants to do. It should still be cool once it's all said and done, and if it's really not what he wants, I'm sure he'll go and figure out how to add leaf springs and shocks to it. But for now, that's all that we have, so catch you later.